Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's hot news. I'm Mr. K reporting from my studio. Today, there was an incident happened resulting to deaths on the street of Verona. The two victims were identified by witnesses on the scene. The first victim was Mercurio Escalas, a young, fine man in his 60s. He is known to be a close friend of the murderers of the other victims, as well as the relative of the Prince of Verona. The second victim was Thibaut Capulet. He was the murderer of the first victim. However, he was killed by the close friend of the first victim. This unfortunate carnage is believed to be caused by some misunderstanding from both sides. As reported, witnesses believe that the feud happened when Romeo, the close friend of Mercutio, is challenged by Thibaut on the street near the market in Verona. At the scene, Romeo is described to be reluctant in fighting Thibaut. However, Romeo's close friend Mercutio took matters into his own hands and took the challenge from Thibaut in the place of Romeo. Unfortunately, he was stabbed to death by his opponent, Thibaut. Seeing the unfavorable turns of events, Romeo decided to avenge his friend by taking the challenge from Thibaut and kill Thibaut in the blink of an eye. To put that into visual, this footage of the fight was sent to us recorded by the witnesses. So let's have a look at what was really happened back then. It seems like there are lots of violence included in the footage. After watching such gruesome action, let's get to know more about the situation from Mrs. Sissy, our beloved reporter who will arrive at scene to get more detail. So, welcome Mrs. Sissy.
So thank you, Mr. K. I'm now in the city of Varna where the incident happened. It's kind of chaotic and very controversial. There were two men who found dead on the street, as what the authorities that the victims were Mercurio and Thibaut. It turned out that Thibaut wanted to meet Romeo, but he ran into Romeo's friend who is Mercutio. Since Mercutio couldn't stand what Thibaut had insulted his friend Romeo, he then started fighting with Thibaut. Then Romeo appeared and tried to separate them from the fighting, but intentionally Thibaut reached under Romeo's arms and stabbed Mercutio in the place. He then left the street quickly, and Romeo take after him, looking so furious. And we don't know what happened. But later on, Thibaut was found dead on the street, and we don't know where Romeo went and or where he is right now, since there's no news of his disappearance. So I'm now standing with eyewitness who is Mr. B. So Mr. B, could you tell us about what happened earlier?
Earlier, there was a fight between Mercutio and Thibaut.
So what were you doing when they were fighting?
When they were fighting, I was at the local market trying to buy something for my family.
How do you feel about this incident?
The situation was really sharp. There's a lot of blood on the field. Many people died, including Mercutio and Thibaut.
So that's it for the interview. So thank you, Mr. B, for joining us. So through what the Prince of Varna has declared about this incident, Romeo will be punished and he will be banished from the city of Varna. And if he is caught in the city of Varna, he will be put to death. So that's it for breaking news this morning. I'm Cici reporting from the Hot News today.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sissy, for your detailed report. After hearing such tragic event, we feel sorry for the loss of both men's life for such misunderstanding. As the incident caused a fuss all over the internet and social media, two news analyzers who are well known for their knowledge in solving problems have raised their voice to get deep down to the root causes and possible reasons for such a huge, dramatic situation. So, welcome Mr. Dakin and Mr. Rio.
The fighting was the result of the two family long feud and Romeo himself. The young Romeo was spotted by red-haired Thibaut when he attended Capulet party, and this is where he fell in love with Juliet. The young Romeo and Juliet married themselves to each other without their family acknowledge. They were performing the wedding while the Motakshu were searching for Romeo, and this is where they bumped into Capulet that were looking for Romeo blood. Even though they knew about the consequences of fighting in the street, the young men of the two families did not end their argument there. They were driven by their anger when they faced each other. Therefore, they did not acknowledge the consequences. Romeo arrived at the scene and spoke politely to end the argument between the two. Yet the two young men did not end the fight. The fight resulted in two young men killed, Thibault and Mercutio.
For me, I think the tragedy was caused by Romeo himself. Because if he hadn't joined the Capulet family party, he wouldn't be in love with Juliet as well. After they know about the story, his friend Benvolio and Mercutio, they are very unpleasant. Then, Romeo himself went out to get married with Juliet without telling anyone about his marriage. When Thibault recognized Romeo at the party and became furious, he sent a letter to Romeo and went out for Romeo's blood. But the letter was received by Benvolio instead. Benvolio and Mercutio also went out to find Romeo since he knew that the letter from Thibault was a challenge to him. They end up seeing Thibault on the street and had an argument. When Romeo left his marriage and see the quarrel between Thibault and Mercutio, he didn't have at all since he thought about Thibault, who's Juliet's cousin, and he couldn't fight until Thibault killed Mercutio.
So thank you so much to our two participants for analyzing the situation for us and our audience. Now we have reached the end of the news. Thank you so much for keeping track of our news, and we will be right back with much more news for you. Goodbye and have a nice day, everyone. Cheers.